what you need the most, go and share in the world. And I promise it will change everything.
Jump, you're ready now. Jump, the sky's the limit. Jump, jump, jump. Leave it all behind and jump. Just go for it. Jump, if you can dream it. Jump, jump, jump. Together we can do all things.
Hi guys, this is Rebecca here. 2021 season, we are about to go. More inspiration, more stories for you to feed your soul and heart. I cannot wait to share the episode up today. Kristin Fitch is a friend. She's a friend, she's a writer, she's so inspired, but above it all, she's such an encourager. Who needs encouragement today? I do. So this is going to bless your heart. Also, she's going to give you tools how to build meaningful relationship. Can't wait to share this with you guys. Let's go.
Kristin, I'm so happy to have you here at Jump, and I'm so excited for what you're going to bring to our listeners today. The first thing that when I met you at the Tribe Conference in Tennessee, I remember your business card, and it says encourager. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to keep that. And we kept connection, we kept contact. And now I have the honor to bring you to Jump. I'm so happy. So welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca, for having me. I am very excited to be here today with you to have some conversation and also to share with your listeners. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So tell me, the first thing is, why did you choose to be an encourager? How did that came about?
Sure. So just the little backstory that got me there. So for a long time, I mean, actually in college, my degree was in political science. And then my master's was actually more liberal arts, but it was more, writing and business focused. But as soon as I finished both, I realized I don't really want to go into those areas. So the long and short of it is I went into business, and pretty quickly I worked in a tech and online marketing type company, web development and all sorts of things like that. And I've had a over 20-year career working on online technology. But in about 2008, I started a business with my mom that was in the early education tech space. And we still have that business. The company's called Ziggity Zoom, but we've reached over 10 million families and teachers with that content. And we've rolled out lots of books with Barnes & Noble. My mom is the artist illustrator, and then I'm more on the tech side of the business and business development and all that sort of thing. But anyways, the long and short is I've done these different businesses. I've done lots of workshops and helped small businesses grow their businesses with their online presence. But I felt about 6 or 7 years ago, I started feeling a call towards doing more with what I did in my personal life, which is encouraging people, but to start a platform, right, that would be that. So I kept feeling like, yes, I love tech and I love, the early education space, but I felt I wasn't fully fulfilled. I felt like something was missing, and I felt a little compartmentalized. There's Kristin over here that does marketing tech, and there's Kristin over here running this business as an entrepreneur. But then there's this pull and this call I had that was, I always knew in my life, I was the person that gathered people. I connected people. I loved on people. Gifting is something very important in my life. I mean, I'll spend weeks thinking about the right gift to give to somebody. And I'm an encourager. I'm the person that thinks, oh, can I drop something off? Can I just give them words of encouragement? And so what I figured out was God kept pushing me to say, Kristin, step out and step up and use your voice to encourage the world. And so slowly over the last handful of years, I've, started doing that in bigger ways. And then with releasing or just launching the podcast finally, and we'll talk about that later, but that is one of the platforms I will be using to try to encourage people to see that they're needed and that the world is waiting for them, just like we talked about for myself, and that we can live better lives and more joyful lives.
Wow, that's amazing. how how do you build meaningful relationship? How do you build things that you think is worth the time
Yeah. With people or in business?
in with people?
Yeah. So for me, one of the most meaningful parts of life and why I think what we were made for is to live in community and to gather and
Mhm.
to live in fellowship. And so for me, I put a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort into all of the people in my community that I surround myself with. Well, whether they're in person or whether they're, people I've met like you over the years.
Mhm.
But so one, I schedule in time for friends and family every single week. I would say at least 4 nights a week, I'm seeing friends, or spending time with someone. Because to me, I don't just schedule my meetings and my Zoom interviews and my busy computer work. I schedule in my gatherings and I schedule in the fun and the connections with people, lunch or, having coffee with
Wow.
someone or connecting on Zoom. So for me, it's that I make it a priority and then I make sure that I listen and I hear what other people are saying or what they're needing. And I try to be there for them, right? So I try to show up in their lives as best I can. And then I try to welcome people into the circles I'm already in when I think
Oh,
that they can
wow.
fit.
That is such a revelation. This is such a good book and you. Wow, you're giving this is you well I never heard that before. I have never heard somebody saying I welcome people to new circles. Never.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to have an invitation. They want to be seen and they want to feel like they're part of something. And I think all of us, that is part of our job is to welcome in both people around us, but new people too, because we're lonely. We want to be connected to others.
And you know what you just did? You just gave words to what we all feel. You gave words to what we all feel. We all need an invitation.
Yeah.
We need that. That is so, I mean, for real, this is a book in you. When you're giving the steps about scheduling the time and listening, and through listening, you will find what they need, and then you encourage them, and then you welcome them to new circles. How do you know who is a good match with who?
Yeah. Well, I think because I do have a lot of circles, right? And I have a lot of very long term friends, but we do add new people to the circles. I think there's a couple of things. I think one, first you get to know someone, right? So you might invite them over with a small group that's not as much of a maybe like your core group that's planning on just that. So everyone coming knows who's coming, meaning, okay, this is kind of a more open group, open conversation, more relaxed tonight. And then you still have to save time for your closest friends, your closest confidants, where you have time because in those spaces, there's more sacredness and more safeness. So you can't always have the big group, right? You can't always have the larger thing. You have to have time for that intimacy. But if you find that you start inviting in, a friend, a girlfriend, or a couple, and, they have things in common with this group, then you can start to invite them to more things. Or we go camping with a large group of people. You can't spend time camping with all of them at one time, but you find that over time you say, oh, we're going to be over in this area. And then people either choose to come and sit with you or not. And so naturally, I think there is the friends like from this group to this group, they start getting to know each other. And I have friends I've known for over 20 years from an old career I had. And now they're very close to some of my girlfriends that I knew in other circles. And now we all are in the same circle, and it took time, but it's because they're all good people. They all value and they're all, surely we're all friends with someone that's maybe a little more negative or toxic, but I try to keep out people that are in those mental spaces from coming into these groups in a big way. It doesn't mean you don't invite them, but you do have to keep some of that at a limit, unless they change over time, but you do have to be careful about who you bring into your circles. It doesn't mean you can't invite them to something else, but I think we do have to be cautious about putting too much negativity in our lives because that's when we recharge and we connect with people.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you said everything right. So your journey as a creative entrepreneur, what your journey looks like now?
Oh, yeah. So it's been, it's been a up the hill and down the mountain kind of path, like most people's. I think we all sort of go on a seeking journey, I guess. And so currently like I said, I still have the business with my mom, the Ziggity Zoom. And we actually did try doing some, because she's an artist, a professional artist as well. We did try doing some art classes for our community. And so we have branched out some new things in that way. But primarily this year I'm launching the podcast, Building a Life You Love. I am planning on releasing some books and workbooks later this year. They're ones I started several years ago, but I had to pause because of some other things I was working on. One is about creativity. One is more inspirational encouragement for women. So my goal is by the end of the year for those to be released. And then I am doing more business mentoring and coaching so that people can kind of go after their dream career, their dream job. And the thing I feel is we can all have more flexibility of time and schedule, and we do have greater income potential, but we have to ask for it, and we have to start seeing those possibilities. So my goal is to help people in that way. It's to see the possibilities and help them figure out how they could start possibly an online business and how they can create, scale, and monetize that idea.
Wow, that's tremendous. Okay, so now what I wanted to do here for us is to use the gift that you have to bless others that are listening, And I know you have the gift of encourager. You are encouraged. If somebody today, they feel that the pressure of society, the pressure of bills, the pressure of everything around them is suffocating them, they have this feeling of like the world is crushing upon them. What do you like to tell them?
Yeah. Well, first, I think I'd get quiet for a minute, and just try to think about how can I serve those people. And first, I would tell them that I see them because all of us have been there. We've walked in those footsteps. And I would say, I see the burden, the big, heavy burden on your back that you're trying to carry all by yourself. And I would say, you don't have to, right? One, you can share it with a friend. You can try to set it down for a minute and step outside and breathe, take a walk. You can pray and lift those burdens up because, right, we were told that God will help us, that he will walk alongside us. And when we do that, truly, and I've done this, when I do that, I literally feel a weight lifted off of me. And so I think that's another thing, whether you're a faithful person at this point or not, you'd be shocked, right? If you just stop for a minute and just say a little prayer, please lift these burdens off of me, help me with these burdens. But then I think the other thing I'd say to them is, I see them and I know that you're walking through a hard season, but I know that you have something to share with the world that's so important and that only you can share, and that you've got to step into that. And maybe you're afraid to, maybe you're so exhausted and you don't even have the time to think about that because you're overwhelmed with your bills or your despair or your loneliness. But what I would say is two things with that. One, I think what we need most, whether it's we need money or we're lonely or whatever it is, if we show up in the world, even if it's just to our neighbor next door or someone in our community, and we give them the thing we need most, maybe you're lonely. So you show up and have a conversation with someone, you get it back, tenfold. You literally will be so filled up because you said, I'm so lonely. But instead of wallowing in our loneliness, if we actually just said, you know what? No, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to show up somewhere. It could even be in your grocery store if you need to, but go to a community center, take a walk and have a conversation with a neighbor. When you step up and say, I'm going to talk to them because I bet you they're lonely too, or they're walking through something, it literally transforms your life. And so I think I would also tell them what you need the most, go and share in the world. And I promise it will change everything. And, I would just tell them, we all walk through hard seasons and hard days. I think the other thing is you have to tell someone around you what you need. And that can be everything from if you're having a conversation with somebody, or maybe it's your spouse, and they continue to try to, because like they say this a lot, right? Like sometimes men want to fix something, but you have to be clear with your friend, your spouse, your neighbor. Hey, I'm struggling with something and I want to tell you about it, but I need you to listen, or I need you just to pray for me, or I need you just to be quiet. I just need to say it out loud. Like tell them what you need, or if it's money, I'm not saying that person can specifically give you money, but maybe they can. What is it you need? Is it you need to brainstorm ways to make money? So it might be, look, this is my struggle. This is my burden, because there's always creative ways to come up with a solution if a solution's what you want. So those are some of the things I would share.
That's amazing. So, Kristin, how can people connect with you, hear your podcast, buy your books, and how can they find you?
Absolutely. So the main way you can find out all the information is go to KristinFitch.com, and that's KristinFitch.com. So it's all I's in there. And from there, you can learn about the podcast. And from there, as I release the books, they'll be available on there, and you'll be able to get to my other website that I do with my mom there. And then on Instagram, that's probably the next best place that I post every day on, is just at Kristin Fitch. And the podcast is Building a Life You Love. You can either search that on every podcast platform like Apple, or you can search my name, Kristin Fitch.
Amazing. Wow. I'm so honored to have you here. Thank you so much for your precious time. Thank you so much. You are amazing. You're beautiful. You look amazing. This blue shirt. And I'm so glad that you were able to share all these amazing gifts that you did with us.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me. Love to you and hugs. And